Hello, everyone. Uh, can you guys hear me? If you guys can hear me and see me, please put a message in the chat box so that I know you guys can hear me. Let me see. All right, I can see the messages here. Yes, can. Thank you. Okay, great. Let me share my screen. Share. Okay. All right. So, hello. Welcome everyone to Synapse QA's webinar. So, my name is Ram. I will be your host for today. So, today's topic will be on API development using Postman. All right. So, before we start, I would like to give a small introduction about ourselves because I'm sure there are some of you have joined our event before and some of you who are new here. So it'd be fair if I would give a small introduction on us first. Okay. So about us, who we are. We are a community-driven space created by a bunch of aspirants who are passionate about testing craft. Since 2020, it's one of the best and globally acclaimed platform with a focus to help testers to build their portfolio. We are a team that explores unique ways to emphasize the role of software quality in the context of the modern world. We have also hosted 4 global events, panel discussions, hands-on workshops, the list just goes on. We also community partner for 6 global testing conferences. We strive to continuously empower the community with innovative ideas that could bring a change. So, what are our values? We want to contribute to a better testing space and inspire testers to open up their hearts confidently and share the knowledge with the wider community. As per our vision, we are a community-driven platform that connects talents to create an empire that expands beyond its pages and transform context more powerful by ensuring it's openly available. As per mission, Synapse QA's famous vision is learn, share, and grow together as a community and redefine the creative ways of knowledge sharing. Okay. So, what makes us unique compared to other communities out there? Well, we connect to people where we foster growth, we inject confidence and self-belief into them. As for community, we connect to them through innovation, uniqueness, and solutions. But how exactly do we do this? It's through our programs and events we have done. Uh, so in order to look at that, let's look into our journey. So basically, we launched on March 2020, where we first launched Synapse QA, and immediately on the December, we had our first program. It's called Super Reach 2020. It's the first of a kind global write-a-thon where it was a huge success. We received huge participation and support. Uh, where it's actually was a breakthrough for us because no any other platform or community has actually done an event like before. And then on the following year, on March 2021, we had our first anthology that celebrated women leaders in testing space called Rise. It was dedicated especially for women because we think that women should be celebrated not just in other environment, but also in testing as well. And then on June 2021, we had a cool blog series called API's Unleashed Parallel Learning Series, which is pretty much a series of blogs on API. Followed by that, we also launched a podcast. It's called Tailor of Tales. So those who actually prefer to listen to things like, for example, myself, I like to listen to learning materials while I'm walking or in LRT. You guys can check out our podcast. Anything, it's all we have tons of materials on testing, so you guys can check that out. And then on December 2021, we had our second series of Super Eats and also Sparks. Sparks is our webinar where we had lots of participations and talks given by people from all over the globe. And then this year, which is the most super exciting thing, we have Super Voice and public speaking workshops. So Super Voice, again, it's a one of a kind program. It's a similar to a reality show, which has never done before. Um, I will explain about this later towards the end of our webinar for today because I don't want to drag too much time here. Okay, so moving on. Well, this slide is just showing all of the events I've mentioned earlier. Okay, so lastly, it's just about introduction about teams. We have Nitin. Nitin is the founder of Synapse QA, and Amala is our co-founder. The rest of us most of us are the core members of Synapse QA, right? More information can be found in our website, so do check it out. Okay, so let's jump into today's session. API development using Postman by Abhinav Patel. So who's Abhinav Patel? So Abhinav Patel is currently working as a senior integration developer at Billennium. He's an avid learner and passionate about acquiring new skill sets, also sharing his knowledge with the community. His primary skills set involves working with middleware and API management. He's a speaker at conferences and meetups. He's a MuleSoft Certified Instructor and trained almost 4K participants. All right. So in today's webinar, he will be exploring new perception of the term API, right? Based on the understanding of Richardson's maturity model and API-led development, he will explore how Postman eases out throughout the entire API lifecycle. He will summarize this session by looking at the test-driven development approach, which will help us to scale and speed up development process. So it's not just a theory today, we will have a live demo session as well using Postman. Okay? So without further ado, I would like to invite Abhinav Patel to the stage. Abhinav, are you there? Vachin, we can't hear you. Can you please check your microphone?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, loud and
Thank you.
clear. Hi,
Thank you,
Abhinav, how are
Ram.
you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for the
Right.
introduction.
Most welcome. Nice to have you here. I'm actually very, very excited to see what are you going to talk about today. So the stage is all yours.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks a
yep,
lot.
please go
Feeling
ahead.
is mutual. I'm equally excited to be the part of Synapse over here.
Right.
So, thank you. Thank you for the team.
Welcome.
Okay, so let's quickly start with this. I share my screen. Perfect. If you guys are able to see my screen, can someone please update it on chat? Perfect. Okay. So let's quickly jump into the presentation and we will also start discussing ourselves. So I'll start with a brief introduction. Already Ram has done an incredible job to introduce me. I'll continue with the same. Working as a senior integration developer, I do hold some good titles, which are certified MuleSoft instructor tag. I'm also a certified MuleSoft mentor now, and equally I am exploring the opportunities with Postman as a tool, as a development tool. Anytime you feel to share a cup of coffee or tea, I'm always ready to let me know. So let's quickly jump into the presentation itself. Now, objective of this entire presentation that I want us to focus on would be to understand API itself. To keep it limited or to keep it bounded to an objective, we will be looking into 6 different agenda for the day. We will start with understanding of what API development first means. Then we will look into the most popular theory, which is Richardson maturity model. If I have to say one thing about this, my entire career of API development have been guided by this particular principle, and it always gives me a solid frame or a solid base to have a discussion upon. Similarly, we will also talk about API-led development. Nowadays, if you ask me, this have been one of the most generic development model which people are adapting to. We will also talk about Postman mic map. This have been a most common question if I have to answer, because people say, okay, we know that Postman can be utilized for to do something, but how do we bring that into habit. So this is where I'll be letting you all know that what Postman want you to think about. Then, to show you the hands-on, we will be adapting to Open API specification framework out of a lot of different frameworks which are available over which you can code. We will be talking about one which is most commonly used, and the last one would be to show you test-driven development. Most of the people have heard that in Google or in any big company, they need not to focus too much on the testing, because as soon as they check in their code is automatically evaluated. Now, how is that done? How is the test cases written even before the development is done? This is what we will be focusing in this sixth point. So let's quickly start. Now, to keep our objective very clear, we have to understand one concept, which is API first development. Now, what do I actually mean by this particular statement? Whenever we talk about the term API itself, it can have multiple different objectives. It can be API as a documentation, or it could be API as an implementation itself, or API as a proxy. Now, too much of jargons over here. Let me explain what we actually mean by each of these. Now, whenever you write a code or whenever you create a service, that service will contain some business logic. If a service itself contains the business logic, we can always go ahead and say that we have created an implementation code. So if a service contains some business logic, we can simply say it has an implementation code. Now, what we recommend you to do is always the business code can be exposed using some or the other interface. And we recommend you to use API for the same. Let's take a real time example. Being a newbie, let's assume that a toddler comes and write some statement in his notebook. Whenever he's writing a statement in a particular notebook, there will be an approach on how to read it. There will be a common communication channel that will be established. Let's assume I'm not very good with Mandarin. If somebody writes that code over there, I will never be able to read the same. Similarly, maybe I'm good with English. I write a code in English, or I write my thoughts in English. But a learner over here or an attendee of this particular webinar is not pretty much okay with English as their first language. Maybe they will face some issue. So these all things can be handled at the implementation code. Now, let's say, let's take an example of a restaurant where chef prepares a food, but not often you will see a scenario in which chef himself goes and delivers the food. This is not a very common scenario that we will observe. Now here, there will be a waiter who will be coming into picture, who will be just managing the delivery of the idea. This is again the second most common example that is being presented for the term API itself, that it act as a waiter for the food that is being prepared at the restaurant by the chef and deliver it to the client. Now, if we move to the second objective where we are talking about API as a documentation, depending on the consumer, instead of developer, let's say we have a business analyst who want to look into what are the functionalities that are provided by our service. Maybe he will be expecting the API documentation to be shared. He don't want to consume the API. He don't want to be a consumer. He just want to analyze what are the capabilities of our API. This is where API documentation comes into picture. Then there is another scenario which is more often with respect to security. Let's assume that I don't want to expose my backend solution directly to the client. What I can do is I can simply create another layer. I can create another layer between the actual implementation code and the client. This could be simply the term API proxy. Proxying and reverse proxying are two of the most common design concept whenever you go to an architectural design. We will stick ourselves to proxy, and I'll even show in further in this session that how can proxy help us to do or help us to abstract the actual implementation code. Now, whenever you talk about the term API itself, there are few principles that we need to always follow. The first one is remember that your API will always be the interface for your application. Again, let's take a real time example. Maybe Porsche would be a really awesome automobile car manufacturer. Let's take the best example. So Porsche, in my opinion, is one of really best automobile manufacturer. But what if their sales outlet is not able to present their idea? To take an example over here, you cannot send a Porsche racing car to let's say to a truck automobile consumer who want to literally take thousands of ton of the material from one place to another. This is not a possibility. So you have to be very clear about the idea that you want to present. Okay, you have to make sure that you keep people in your mind while you are designing your API. So your people will be the one who will be consuming your API. Keep that in mind while designing them. So people first approach, I can say. The second most important thing is your API should actually show the functionality, like what is the capability. It's not that you need to show the everything what your service is doing. It's only to show the capability that your API holds. That's what is the core objective when you talk about the first point over here. That your API is the first user interface of your application. If we move to the second point, which is your API comes first, then the implementation. Now, trust me, in my small career, I have faced this endless number of time where we present an idea to the customer, they agrees to it, but after a week, maybe they got a new insight from their analyst and they want to change it altogether. Now, I'm saying that I have presented an idea to the customer, not to the end consumer. So here changes is always a possibility and it's more decisive at this stage. See, if there is a customer feedback, we will always have an evaluation phase coming into picture. But if the customer itself is directly talking to us, he can always present an idea and he want it quick and fast because it's all about money. Time is money for customer, and for us, we have to make sure that we deliver them as soon as possible. So this is what we have to keep as an idea in our mind. So when we talk about your API comes first and then the implementation, here we can have two core points being kept in mind. So first, very simple thing that we need to discuss over here is your API actually act as a contract. To understand this, let's take another real time example. If you go and want to purchase a house, what is the proof that the house belongs to you? You cannot stand on any house and say this belongs to me. If this is a possibility, every person wherever they want to, maybe I'll go and stand in White House and start yelling that this is my house. That's not a possibility. So you have to justify, you have to prove it, and see that a big house just can be identified from a piece of paper. So that act as a contract, a legal contract. Similarly, for any service, your API document actually act as a legal contract. Your consumer will read it, they will try to understand what you are trying to deliver, and they will agree to it. So now you both the parties are bounded to this agreement. So if there is any change that you want to do in the service, that need to be reflected in the API document first. So why not we make sure that first all the contract is confirmed. There are now endless platform which gives you the mocking capability. We will even see that feature in Postman. where you have a mocking capability. You don't even go ahead and develop the code. You can simply mock it based on the API documentation. So any changes at this particular stage can be handled well enough. This is first point. Now the second important point is if there is any change with respect to consumer. Okay, first point was with respect to customer, where customer want to make any change that need to be quick enough. Now what if there is any change that need to be done based on the consumer inputs. Now this is again where documentation comes into picture. You will release a proper release note which will be letting them know that okay, these are the changes in our existing service. Okay, so these are what about the first and the second point. The third point, if you ask, in my opinion, have really got its importance or limelight in past 2 to 3 years, where we make sure that your API is prescribed. And when we say API is described, it means it should not require any third party intervention. The consumer can directly look into the API and understand what are the capabilities. Now, how will you do that? For obvious reason, you will be adding the documentation to it. The second most important thing that we can look into would be that we will be adding some industry standard to this particular development. Okay, industry standard is something which is really very important for us to understand, and due to this reason, for this third point, we have our entire section being added to it. This is where your Richardson maturity model comes into picture. Now what is a Richardson maturity model? Like, let's assume that you want to evaluate what was the intensity of earthquake at your location. It's pretty simple to understand with the help of the Richter scale. Now, similarly, if we want to evaluate our API, Richardson actually developed a scale to analyze it, where we have four different levels: level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3. And it is always desirable to achieve level 3. If I have to say, I'll say the majority of API, and I'm talking about industry standard API that exists right now. Majority of API right now are at level 2, not at level 3. So here you can ask me, okay, what is the difference? And that's what we are here to discuss. Okay. So any API for the reason, and remember, you can see till now whenever we are discussing about the things, I'm keeping things pretty general and open. So whenever we talk about the API, any API could be scaled in these different levels. Like let's start with the lowest mode or the bottommost, which is level 0. Now, level 0 API is simply that you have a single URI and a single verb attached to it. Now, these are some technical terms with respect to API. So let me explain them. Now, when we talk about the verb, like in English grammar, will always represent the action. Okay. So let me say that I want to create something. I want to create, let's take a real time example. I want to create something on LinkedIn or on Instagram. So we simply, in the very normal language, we say, okay, I want to post an update. Perfect. This is a very good example because posting is a verb in case of API. Post itself is a word as well as a keyword. Similarly, let's say I want to remove something from Instagram, I'll say delete. So delete is another verb for API. Now, when you say I want to delete something from Instagram or I want to post something on Instagram, you see one thing which is common, which is Instagram. So you have to identify a resource. You have to identify a target where you will be doing some action. And those are basically what will help us to develop the URI. Let me do one thing. Let me quickly bring a notepad so that we can see this more practically. 1 second. I'll take the same Instagram example. I want to delete a post. That's my first requirement. Also, I want to post a new update. These are the two requirements that I want to do. So when you say you want to delete a post, okay, so there will be some identifier. Let me call it as, let's say, post number 12345. This is the post that I want to delete. And these actions, let me always keep this. These actions are always happening on uh, Instagram. We will keep that in mind. So if I want to delete, I will delete a post. To uniquely identify, it will be 12345. And here you are saying posting a new update, which simply means you don't have any information of it now because you are creating something new. So let's see how we can handle this. If I have to design a solution for this, first of all, I will identify a target. For me, target here would be Instagram. Along with this, I will have two inputs. One input will be the post number 12345, and another one would be the action, which in our case is simply a post. Similarly, if I have to do a post on a new update, this is also happening on Instagram. And here I'll have inputs. What will be the input? It will be my post draft. Whatever is the draft. Let's say if you want to upload a picture, you always upload a picture. After that, it is in the draft state. It is not directly updated. Okay. We'll keep it till here. Okay. And we will go back to our slide so that we can match it with what's the idea we are trying to present. So if I say that currently the API that I have developed is at level 0, how will I identify? I'll simply say if you develop, I'll say level 0. Level 0 will be pretty simple. That's for first requirement. I'll say maybe something like Instagram /12345 and do something. So post operation on Instagram 12345. Okay. And maybe I'll add something as an identifier, post Instagram post. And for second requirement, I will say delete. Sorry, yes, the first one is actually my mistake. I should update this. This is delete, and here the action would be post. That was my mistake. Action was reversed. First is delete, deleting a particular post. So here it should go delete. Delete an Instagram post with ID 12345, and then second one is post. Maybe I'll call this as Instagram uh, post underscore added /. Maybe I'll say some data. We are not looking too much into architecture, uh, correctness of this code, but I'm more on interested to share the idea over here. Okay. So these are what I can say, that I have a unique URI defined and it is always binded to a particular method call. This right now might not seem to be correct to people who already have an idea about how API work. For them to relate, I'll say one simple sentence. In real time, if I have to say, how can you relate to this? You can talk about the SOAP calls. The SOAP call are basically post with a body. Always you will have an operation. Just to explain it further, you will have an operation and I'll say post body, and by default I'll say it will be always a post action that you will be doing. Default post action that you will be performing. Okay. So this could be a real-time alignment of level 0. I'm taking the example because I want to enhance this and make it till level 3. Okay, so real time for level 0 will be a soap call, operation, body, and default post action. For a few people who have recently seen the advancement in term API, XML RPC call are also one of the same category, level 0. But quite often nowadays, we don't see this too much. So if you have to remember something, you can always say level 0 will have a single URI and a single verb attached to it. Okay. Now, what if I want to have a mature API? We had some round of discussion with our consumer and they want to make this more mature. What you can do is you can have multiple URI based, multiple URI resource and a single verb added to it. Now, what do I mean by this particular thing? So, sorry, let me do a level 2 action. Level, sorry, level 1 action. Okay. Remember, this is not technically correct. So these are just to help us understand what I mean to show. In real time, level 0 example would be a soap call, or to add to this, I will also say RPC, ML RPC basically. If I say about level 1, what will be modified in it? In this, what we can do is we can have multiple independent URIs. Okay, let's say I'll say Instagram, instead of post I'll say Instagram underscore a, Instagram underscore b. Okay, and they will have their independent methods. So all these will be independent of each other. You will have independent URI, you will have independent method to be added. But you have to understand here still whatever you are creating will always represent one operation in general term. Okay, so even in level 1 I will say a combination of URI and verb always representing one particular operation. Level 1 is not quite common, I will say. I haven't seen many practical APIs which are at level 1, but definitely we have a lot at level 2. Now, this is very important for us to understand, and this concept actually can be implemented anywhere, not just to API. And I'll give real-time example for the same. What are the different scenarios in which you can actually apply level 2 of Richardson maturity model? It says use multiple URI and you can have verbs attached to them. Okay. So what I can do is I know that there is a single target. If I know that there is a single target, which is Instagram over here, if I have a single target available to us, I can create the combination of target and verb, which is basically if I say post over here, it might have a different meaning to it. If I say delete, it will have a different meaning attached. Okay, let me just for better understanding to show the relationship, I am just doing the tab indentation. You can have post action on Instagram, you can have delete action on Instagram. Now when we go with this is where we say a unique combination of uh, resource and method, or I should say verb defines an operation. Okay. Now, this is the point. Actually, if you evaluate, this is a very big point due to which people have seen a paradigm shift from the SOAP to RESTful API call. That's the reason, again, people quite often nowadays might not even be, if there is a fresher, let's say, who is an year or two into the API world, he might not have even worked on SOAP call. He might have heard about it, but not worked on it. But he would have definitely worked on the RESTful call because it gives you this advantage. Every unique combination of resource and verb can be treated as an independent operation. Okay. Now this is where I see most common, I'll say, API being designed. Now if I have to modify this, okay, if I have to take this to level 3, maybe we have an organization. This is most commonly where I'm seeing the new startups being playing because they can abruptly change their entire design. Established organization, for them it will be a gradual process. They cannot directly shift from level 2 to level 3. Now why do we require a level 3 if level 2 is already doing our task? Trust me, the only reason that I can say would be customer experience. Customer experience is nowadays of prime or utter importance, I'll say. So, how do we provide a customer experience? So, let's say I'm still doing Instagram call and I'm doing a post. Okay. As soon as I do a post call, sorry for this, just give me a moment. Sorry, alignment. Uh, as soon as I do a post call on Instagram endpoint, what if I also show my client back? So in a response, if I say, if you wanna see the post, click here. Okay. And remember, important thing, this click here should actually take him to the post. So maybe it will redirect to some Instagram. Again, I'll take an ID to uniquely identify my post. I'll say 789456 and the call. We get call on this particular endpoint. Do you understand what we have done? We have actually provided a customer experience and created a continuity, not just doing a post auction, but now we are also providing them the option what is next, what they can do next. This is what basically is known as HATEOS. So if I have to say the term is HATEOS, which is hypermedia, or I'll keep it simple. I'll just for explanation, it's not the actual abbreviation meaning, but I'll to explain, I'll say hyperlink. Okay, hyperlinks. Hyperlinks as the engine. Okay, hyperlink as the engine of, basically it's an operating system, but quite often people get confused. So I normally stop over here. If you want, you can always explore what HATEOS is, and it is nowadays widely accepted, I'll say, concept. It's basically a simple concept that you can implement. So hypermedia as the engine of operating system. That's what this abbreviation represent. Okay. So let me go back to the presentation. So basically, Richardson maturity model help you to evaluate the maturity of your API, to which level your API reside. It could be at level 0, where you create all single like unique URI and unique word for every single operation. Then You might use multiple URI, multiple verb attached to them, or you can take it to level 2 where you are having single URI but different verb, and unique combination of URI and verb will define the action. And the last one will be the hypermedia as the engine, HETIOS. Okay, let me show you if I can. Yes, I think I can. uh, I want to show you the HETIOS concept. Okay, so there used to be a white paper. Yes, maybe I'll share the white paper with the organizer. They will share it later. But you can see here itself that in the response, we are giving them some additional detail. If you want to get account detail, you can also get the link for deposit, withdrawal, transfer, close request. All those you are getting in the response file. So you can always explore this. I'll try to find a white paper which actually explain this in really awesome manner. I'll be sharing that with you after this session, I'll say. So what next? If we are able to understand our maturity level from Richardson maturity model, let's move to the second important thing. Okay. Till here, we were talking about in general how project works. But if we talk about more specific, which is an API led development, okay. So there is generally a question that what if I don't want to expose my solution as an API? Is there any issue? My answer is no. You don't have any issue. I'll tell you a real time example. We do have and it's the most generic format what we have seen, that whenever you go to any receipt counter, whenever the receipts are being generated, they are always a document. Okay, even in future if I want to retrieve a receipt, I will take a document printout. Okay, uh, for me to give a real time example, it could be as simple as okay, onboarding a flight. Whenever you board a flight, you will get an onboarding pass. Okay, you get a boarding pass, it could be a document being provided to you. Now this document by default will always be stored as a document itself in the server. So there, instead of reading the data of the document, I can read the document itself. I can pick the file itself. So it could be a file interface kind of thing that we can develop. So why do we always recommend the people to use APIs as one of their interface? The most generic answer to this is your API can actually be utilized to abstract anything. Let's take the example of file itself when I'm saying. When you're saying the receipt is stored as a file on a server and I'm reading that particular file, what if I want to add that as a data to the database? So basically you have to perform certain operation. You will read the data from that API and then you will put that into database. Okay. Now for this to understand or for this to work, the person who is performing this operation need to be having a clear understanding about the file as well as the database. He need to be understanding about what is the schema or what is the format in which the file is written. Maybe as simple data like time could be in different format in file and it could be in different format in the database. Okay, so we have to make sure that we are aligned with these all information. So we have to make sure that these data are in place. Okay, there are different ways to handle this. Let me take you to the Postman mind map and finally to a presentation. I'll hardly take 10 minutes for that. Let me quickly check the timing. Okay, I think we have a very less amount of time left. So let's quickly take. Ram, is it okay if I take just 5 or 10 minutes more?
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Okay,
We all
fine.
enjoying
Sorry for
it.
the delay. No.
No problem.
Okay, sure. So let's understand how do you do all these stuff. And trust me, these are all very generic action. Maybe you have been doing that already. I'm just providing the name to them. Okay. So the very first step always is to identify what you are trying to implement. If you are trying to implement an API, you have to first finalize how you will be implementing it. Why I'm asking this question? In the market, there are literally hundreds of different ways by which you can write a document. You can write a simple API document using API blueprint. You can write a RESTful call using RAML. You can write a RESTful call using Open API specification. There are many. So you identify it. For now, what I have done is I have kept a standard and the most widely utilized way, which is Open API specification. Okay. So we always try to identify an Open API objective, and then we try to add the most important thing. Okay. So I'll show this with the help of demo itself without wasting much of time. Uh, I'm doing everything from scratch. Let me go to a workspace. Let me I have created a workspace dedicatedly for this particular presentation so that you all feel on the same page what I am. Everything from scratch, not even, I'll say, a scratch on my workspace. Yes. So whenever you will open Postman, it will be looking something like this to you. Okay. So I'm taking a simple workspace, uh, my workspace, very simple, which does not have anything. One thing which I can personally guarantee you is any action that you want to perform throughout the API lifecycle can be performed using Postman. Actions such as, if I have to just put some point to you, you can have something like API design, monitoring, managing, versioning of an API, creating an API catalog. All those things can be always also done using Postman. Definitely, there are different tools which can also give you the equally same capability. So if we talk about Postman over here, I'll create a simple API. I clicked on this on the left hand side API. I'll say new. You can decide which format. Again, whatever concept I have told you, those are pretty much generalized concept. You can use it to create an HTTP request, WebSocket, gRPC, whichever you want. I'm just going with the simplest one, which is HTTP request. Okay. Now, by default, you are always given this opportunity to simply go ahead and test your API. Our main objective is over here to understand and create an API. Okay. How can we do that? Let's do something. If I don't know Postman, how can I do that? It's always good if you can go ahead and click on this explore button. If you go ahead and click on the explore button, you will have all the informations that you require are pretty much organized and provided by Postman to you. Without wasting much more time, I'll simply go ahead and show some very simple steps and we will complete it. Create with something new, a new tab which I can see. I'll go ahead with it. Create with something new. Okay, let's go with API documentation. Create a new collection. Get request. Maybe I'll give the same example. Forward slash.
Abhinav, so sorry to interrupt, but
Yes.
could you please help to zoom in your screen so that we all can see the Postman?
Okay.
Yes,
Is it
much
better?
better. Yes, way better. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. So let's say I defined a simple method action get Instagram, and I want to get 1 2 3 4 5 the post 5, which the same example that I gave. You can always add an example, sorry, description to it. But for me, taking time into consideration, I'll just stop over here. You can even tell what do you want to do with this. Okay, I'll say this would be a test collection. Simply save. Next step, add more documentation. We will do it later. Close. Okay. I simply create a test collection. Okay. We have a collection available. Collection for basic for you basically would be something similar to uh, organizing or doing a folder structure in your desktop. You keep different files within the folder. Second thing, if I go and say create an API, let's say I want to create Instagram API. I'm starting with the first version. What I am following is something known as semantic versioning. So major, minor, and patch. Now, sorry, major, minor, zero. Now, why I'm keeping the major version as 0? So that people can actually understand that this is not ready for use. The minimum major version which we should keep if we want the consumer to actually access my API is 1. Then you have, no, sorry for this. Okay. The actual advantage of using Postman is you can use different uh, ways like OpenAPI, RAML, GraphQL, Protobuf if you are using gRPC. That's where this come into picture. SOAP, as I mentioned, you'll be using Visual. You can even go with different formats if available. Like Open have 2 format, but if you go to RAML, it will only have 1 format. RAML can be written only in YAML format. You can simply go create an Instagram API. I'll skip all this part. Now, this page, which might look quite empty to you, if you have to evaluate this, this can actually be your company's uh, front to your consumer. You can tell everything, whatever you want. Like for the first one, I want to add the description, any documentation for my API. All those things can be done over here. Similarly, you can see just by default, Postman give you the default structure in which the information is available. I'll go with the very minimum. What is the requirement for a valid API? If I remove the license server, it won't impact. And if I remove everything after, okay, this is very basic. I think I should just keep the method call. The call shouldn't be removed. Sorry. Okay. If I simply keep it like this is what could define your service. As simple as this. You can make it as descriptive as possible. Like if I just shift back, you can see that I'm able to see whatever action my get can have. It can have some filter parameter. You can see name in basically ID will be the parameter that will be given in query. So as descriptive as possible, you should always go for the same. You will also define what will a consumer get in response. You can see here response are simply 200 and we are defining it. We are defining it properly. Okay. Now, I'm not writing the code. Maybe we will do a separate session for designing an API altogether. This actually brings me to the next stage. What if I want to go with the test driven development approach? Okay, what if I want to go with it? I need not to actually write the code. What I can simply do is from my document itself I can generate the test cases. Okay, you can always go ahead and generate the test cases from your API itself. You can see as soon as I clicked on save, this generate collection on the top right, this button got enabled. If I click on it, it will ask you what do you want to do with that collection. I'll say test demo API. I'll select test option and generate collection. Now this was the objective why I showed you the collection earlier. Collection will actually act as a folder for you, which will have multiple things inside it. So here if I go back to collection, you can see this test demo API in place. Okay. If I open this, You can see whatever was my design. I'll still open the design to show you. It was user get and input as ID. You will be able to see the same over here. User get call input as ID. Even without writing my code, I'm able to directly generate the test cases. If somebody over here is actually from testing background, they might disagree with me that okay, this is not the entire testing. I do 100% agree with you. This is not the entire testing, because further you can go ahead and write the test case. But at least I can say this could be a good starting point where you at least know what you are going to test. That's the whole objective for me, showing why Postman is capable enough for me to take you through the entire API lifecycle. Okay. Now, time, I'll say I've already crossed my assigned time. So I'll stop it over here. Maybe if there are some questions, we will take the questions and then we will call it a day. I'll stop sharing my screen. Uh, Ram, are you there? Sorry for the
Yes,
delay, man.
Abhinav. No worries, no worries. It was a very, very interesting session. Thank you so much. It was really insightful because for Postman, my personal experience is just on testing side, but on development side, today I really, really got a hands-on view on it. So it's really cool. All right, so let's look at the questions. Okay, there's a few questions over here. All right, so the first one is a bit generic. Uh, does it require does it require programming knowledge to be a good API developer?
No, that's what my core objective is. Let me explain things very clearly.
Okay.
Currently, if I have to say, I am the part of the team where the BA, the business analyst, they are taking care of the API design. And this really helped me as a developer. This really helps me a lot because they are the one who are actually at the customer end. They can better understand it. And if they are capable enough to present this idea, because you would have already seen in my case that when I'm saying in Postman, you can actually see that happening, that there is an
Mm.
endpoint. We are not having enough time, otherwise I would have even done the mocking that you can even run this API to show the people that okay, you will click over here, you will get a data back. This is what I will be doing, because your customer will never ask okay, you have written the code in Java or Python. They
Mm.
want something to be running in front of you. Even if you can create an animation on PPT, they are okay with it. So why to create an animation on PPT when you can do that actually, and you have to do that actually later on. So I'll say no, it's not that you require programming knowledge. You just require some, I'll say, general development knowledge, and it's not technical. It's more on non-technical. So that's
Oh,
what where I'll conclude it.
that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Okay. Right. Next one. Could you please suggest some resources for testers to create their own APIs?
Okay, I'll make sure that I share a document. I'll share it with you, Ram and Nitin. Maybe you all can connect to the organizer in about a week. I'll not guarantee it today because I'll try to create it by today and tomorrow. After that, I'll definitely share. Within a week, you all can drop a mail to the organizer. They will be able to share the document. I'll create a proper
Okay.
document and share. I'll do it.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much. Okay. Next question. If the APIs we handle don't follow HOAS, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it
Hit
right.
yours. Yeah.
HOAS. All right. Should we speak with the developers to improve?
Okay.
Yep.
If you are the having the authority, I'll definitely say promote it. I will not say force it, because obviously when you start going level up, it have its own requirement. Like it will require more time. Now, for most of the time, I'll say, because I am also a developer, for most of the time we don't have enough bandwidth to deliver the most or I'll say the best solution. It's always the optimum solution. As a developer, we are taught one thing, that we have to deliver the optimum solution. But if you can promote it and if it becomes a habit, definitely I'll say yes, go ahead and promote it. At least you should be knowing that this is something which can see, it's all about customer experience. You are, if you can go a mile ahead to deliver a customer experience, it's always good. It will bring you some new market.
Got it. Got it. Cool. Hmm. Okay. You mentioned the API design approach, right? Could you
Yes.
please elaborate on the API first approach?
Okay. API first simply means three things. If you remember, there were 3 points that I mentioned. When you talk about API design, remember the first step is that only API should act as an interface. So
Mm,
the consumer should only know the API. You should not explain him the back. That's where you can make the API more mature. If he's not able to understand something, that means your API lacks something. The first thing is
mhm,
API will always act as the first interface. The second
mhm,
point that I said, if I'm right, yes, always create the API design first, then implementation. So your API documentation, what I showed right now, it is capable enough to demonstrate anything. I'm not saying it's a solution, end-to-end solution, but it is capable enough to demonstrate anything. So always go with the design, take all the feedback, modify the design, don't go with the implementation. And the last thing is your API should always be descriptive enough. So just by that document, just by the design that I showed, your customer should be able to understand what you are about to deliver as a solution to them. So 3 points, remember in mind, API should be the single point of contact or the only interface. Second, design first, don't go for implementation. Third is always make sure your API is descriptive enough. These are the three core rules. If you follow this, it is always an API first approach.
fantastic, fantastic. Okay. Last question. What are your tips and tricks for the API testers? Should they be involved in the unit tests of APIs as well?
Okay. Let me bring some real time scenario over here. Okay.
Okay.
I'll say right now in my current project itself, I'll add to it. There is no nowadays you would have already observed that there is no such thing like API tester. There are people who are playing different role. So maybe you can go a step ahead and also be the designer of that API. That's always a possibility. Now, if you are not playing that role, you are just doing the testing after the development. Again, if you try to understand, you have to go through the documentation to understand what you are about to test. So, for a tester, tips and trick would be get more involved in the API. I'm not saying in the implementation.
Mm,
Getting involved in the API design and development is always a good approach. And I'll tell you, there is nobody better than an API tester to give the feedback. Priscilla, one of our members itself, she have really given me awesome feedbacks about my design itself. She
mm,
can do that because when I'm developing an API in a week, maybe I am only with one API. It take more than a week. Sometimes it take months to develop one API. But for a tester, they might be testing 10 or hundreds of API daily. So they have a wider audience and a wider audience to cater to. So my tips would be help the API designer or be the API designer. Go for it. There is no such segregation. At least in last 5 years, what I have seen, there is no such segregation as API designer and tester being kept apart. It's only that people have taken different role.
understood. Understood.
Okay.
I
Uh,
guess
I can see
that.
one question over here. Maybe this is an answer. What people are using when API are not there? Uh, I'll answer this. So there are different other interfaces too. Like one example I gave was file interface. Okay, this is what you are showing on screen. Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you. This is what I was giving example that you have file interfaces, you have scheduled job. Maybe there is some task which actually does not require any other intervention. So it is being scheduled at the backend. That's how you are invoking that service. So definitely there are many other approach. There is SFTP. Depending on the protocols, also things keep on changing. So the most common one I'll say are SOAP, RESTful, these APIs itself. Then we have SDKs that are coming into picture. Jar jars are also one of the way by which we communicate. So there are many things.
All right. All right. That's great. Thank you so much for answering all the questions with so much detail. uh, I'm sure just like me, others out there, they find the session really insightful. I can see the messages and everything. So thank you so much, Abhinav, for your time. As you said earlier, so if you have the time to actually prepare the resources, you can just pass it to us and we can share it in the community and so on. Of course, they can also reach out to you in your LinkedIn as well, right?
Yeah, sure, definitely, any day. I'm always
All right.
active on weekend on LinkedIn.
That's
Let me
great.
know.
That's great. Okay. So thank you so much, Abhinav. Let me share my screen. Okay. So we have come to the last section of our uh, program today. So before we wrap up, I would just like to share a little bit about SuperVoice. So SuperVoice, as I mentioned earlier, is our current ongoing program, where right now there's a battleground going between the participants. It's very, very interesting because we get judges uh, who are very experienced in giving talks in conferences and everything, giving live feedback to the participants, who are some of them are new and some of them are experts. So, which is a very, very intense uh, program, I would say. So the episode one right now it's live in our YouTube channel. So please go there and check out and do let us know what you guys think in the comment section. We'll be happy to pick it up from there. Okay. Uh, for more details, you can also go to our Synapse QA's website. I think Nitin will be sharing the link in the chat, so you guys can just click there and see and understand more how is the uh, Synapse Super Voice is actually structured and so on. Right. So exciting stuff, guys. Do check it out. Last but not least, thank you so much for coming today and spending your time with us. Uh, Of course, if you guys have any questions, do send us an email at contact@seniorqa.com. And of course, you guys can hit us up in the LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, I mentioned earlier, we in the YouTube as well to put up your comments there, and then we can we'll take it out from there. So hope to see you guys again on the next webinar. Okay, so have a good weekend, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.